I'll add it to the list is a popular phrase that just rolls off the tongue. Sometimes it can be a general quip used for feigning interest in whatever media is being sold to you in the moment, whether by a friend, a coworker, or the Dutch Brothers barista. But let's be honest, they've already said it 20 times today. They're not adding your Iranian political thriller to any list. Sometimes it could be a kind way of saying, thank you for mentioning it. I'm gonna forget about it the second you walk away. For me, it's typically genuine intrigue. My interests cover a wide range of genres and mediums, so receiving recommendations from people is a good way for me to cover ground I might not naturally. And I've gotten many life-changing suggestions. Persona 5, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, deodorant. There's just so much out there to discover. How can one person keep up with so many individual pieces of media when we're living in the age of content? Even if you were to try, how do you even track it all? Like, is there a physical list? Why, yes. I have a Letterboxd for movies, I use the Notes app for TV shows, and I've got a backlog of games. As of recording this, I have 1,800 films in my Letterboxd watch list, which is about half of the films that I've watched for the first time in the past 10 years since using that app. How could I possibly get to everything? I probably won't. New movies come out every year and the list exponentially increases, and the demand, which is me watching, can't possibly keep up with the supply, which is things to watch. I've just come to the realization it's not feasible I can watch it all, and that's okay. So why is it that a backlog of games just feels so overwhelming to me? Is it that the time of completion is well over an hour and 40 minutes? Is it the feeling that participation is just more involved? Is it because it's something fresh, new, and scary when you can just fall back to a comfort game you know you love? All of the above? Why are you asking me so many fucking questions? I don't know. You have vested monetary interest in this thing and you can't possibly ignore it forever. You need to get your money's worth. Nowadays, games are coming out as frequently as movies, so it becomes increasingly difficult to keep up with those. There's something for everybody and there's everything for somebody. It's a time-consuming hobby. Not to mention the constant barrage of discounts and sales provides the perfect opportunity to just add more games. You wouldn't want to feel FOMO, would you? I'll just get this now because it's cheap and I can play it later when I want to. Famous last words. This process has allowed me to accumulate many games I can't wait to play, but no feasible way to accumulate enough time to play them. The snowball rolls down the hill. The collection is growing. The dopamine rush that hits your brain when you see that new artwork, whether physically or digitally, is hard to beat. The high wears off and you're chasing the high again, so you buy another game, and another. The process repeats until you're overburdened. Where do we go from here? I had an epiphany, a moment of clarity, you could say, what I wanted to do. Now, what I needed to do was look myself in the mirror and decide, do I want this overbearing weight to keep growing, or do I want to do something about it? In December 2024, I decided it was time to lock in. I wouldn't waste any time. I'd get started immediately. In January, my one kind of sort of stipulation was that I'd give myself a time frame, a nice round starting point of January 1st and an end date of December 31st. Not a deadline, just like an idea of where I was in the year and what I was playing when. The day approached, and I would begin my long-winded descent down Mount Backlog. My plan was simple. I had no plan. We were going to be running on vibes and vibes alone. I'm not going to be keeping a prospective laundry list of games I want to play and when. I'd pick a game in the collection I wanted to play, and I'd play it. If I could beat the game, that would be icing. But if I couldn't get into it, I wouldn't force it. I've always struggled with this internal mental anguish when not completing games that would haunt me, eat me alive, and swallow my soul. And because of that, I've had trouble moving on to new things before the last thing has been completed. I had to put that aside for this, or I'd feel stuck. Not only that, but sometimes it would turn a hobby that's supposed to feel fun into something that felt more like a chore. I'd force myself to keep playing games I had no interest in. That's something that's gotten me into this predicament, was thinking that completion equaled satisfaction. Some people might call that mental illness. Maybe, just maybe, this process would allow me to break free of my bad habits and cure me of my mentally induced tendencies. One thing that I would like to track are the additions and subtractions made throughout the whole year. I'll subtract when a game has been played and can be removed from the backlog, and add when more games are obtained. By the end of this, my hope is that we'll have a net negative outcome. A golf score, you could say. In full disclosure, I did not calculate where I was before recording this, so it's going to be a surprise for everyone. The goal is not to finish the backlog because, let's be honest, you can never truly finish a backlog, but to put a dent into it so I could feel like some progress is being made. January started out a little bit slow, almost as if we had too many things to choose from. So the first thing to kick off the journey, the first thing we started with was Dying Light. Now, Dying Light is not really a game or a series I'm familiar with, and when I did play it, I played it on the Switch 1, which it's a little rough around the edges. It runs a little goofy. It doesn't look all that great. The game itself was not my favorite. I found some of it to be quite annoying, the boss battles. The open world traversal was pretty neat. The hopping around and the jumping and the running, that was pretty fun. But all in all, it didn't really do a whole lot for me. It was a little forgettable. Maybe if it was a better version, maybe if I played it on Xbox, or maybe if there's an upgraded Switch 2 version, it might come out a little better. But ultimately, I found it to be pretty forgettable. And at a certain point, I just wanted to be done. I did not want to do any side stuff. One thing I do want to mention off the rip is everything I talk about is open to spoilers. I do want to actually talk about some of these things, so if you're sensitive to that or you haven't played some of these, that's okay. Skip over it and move on to the next thing, but I do want to talk openly about a lot of these things. One thing that I did do with Dying Light, though, is I finished it. And to me, finishing a game is when the credits roll. So even if you get credits and the game continues going, I think I have an easier time just being done because I've seen the credits. Another exciting thing that did happen in January, though, we got a tease. Ooh, we got a little sneak peek. The Nintendo Switch 2. Could not contain my excitement. The first Switch, probably my favorite console of all time, reintroduced me to Nintendo and honestly better gaming in general. So to finally see the Switch 2 announced was very exciting, and to see that it would be beautiful and powerful. One other game I did get to, this is a game that I have started multiple times and for one reason or another did not ever finish. That's Coffee Talk. I found this one to be lovely. The lo-fi vibes, the dialogue-heavy gameplay. I'm a big proponent of games where the goal isn't to fucking fight all the time. And this was just the perfect thing I needed. The rainy vibes, the characters, deep dialogue, deep character building. Essentially, a glorified coffee making game. Not even just coffee, but other drinks. They give you an idea of what they wanted and you give it to them. You have a combination that you can create. Super fun gameplay and just a lovely time. A lovely, chill, calm game. Also, this is how simple the notes start out. I must have began this thinking that I could just remember things from a year ago, because there's no notes until you go on. The notes begin to get a little longer. So I don't know what I expected from myself, but really that's all we had for January. We started out slow, but we did make some progress. February was very much the same, a little bit of a slow month. One game that I did start playing, not because it was from the backlog, but people around me wanted to play it, was Sea of Thieves. Now, I remember when this game was announced years ago. It was like one of the first, not one of the first, but it was a major Microsoft exclusive game that kind of came and went to my periphery. I just did not see much in it, I guess. I kind of got really into it this year. It is simplistic. It is a lot of plundering and fighting and samey sort of mission structure, but sailing the high seas with friends. There's some of the most beautiful water I've ever seen in a game. I mean, it was stunning to look at. It is stunning to look at. I still play this game. I'm not confident enough to do any of this stuff on my own. I always have to rely on the help of my other pirate gang, but I find this to be a really fun time. Another suggestion that was given to me.
Yeah, but I'm playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Something a little bit different. Something a little bit the same, but different. I guess the same because it's on an island and Sea of Thieves you island hop. This was fun for a little bit. A little bit of a Animal Crossing clone. You run around and it is more I guess you could say quest or mission structured. You are running around and trying to help all the characters, and while you do that, you're building up friendships, which unlock new things, which unlock new parts of the island, and it is an ever expanding world. But beyond playing it in February, I did not really go back to it at all. A lot of February was built around Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I've been a fan of Xenoblade for a while, ever since I got the Switch and started playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think that game was a game changer for me as far as the games I would begin to play ever since I've gotten every iteration of Xenoblade that's come out. Big, lush, open worlds, and the music, the characters, it all came together really well. I did struggle a little bit with 3. There was, I think at some point these games get to be a little too big for their britches or a little too long, but what I will say is that I did beat it. I was afraid because I know for sure with 2, I never finished it. I got stuck on a boss that just kept kicking my ass, and I think the same for Xenoblade Definitive Edition. So to finally beat one of these games felt like a real accomplishment, and by the end of it, the ending just kind of tied everything into a nice bow that I found redeemed it fully. Like, it just like saying goodbye to friends. I think I ended up taking like 5 or 10 screenshots at the end because it's all just like beautiful sunsets and vistas and friends, and it was just about friendship, and it was so beautiful. Moving on to March, this is when things start to ramp up a little bit. I started playing and beat Coffee Talk 2, very much the same as the first one, just more characters, more ingredients, more of everything, and more coffee and more talk is always lovely. And I ended up getting the 2-pack because I wanted these games physically. I find them to be really endearing and lovely. It didn't really take me long to beat them. They're not very long games. So I moved quickly along to a game that sat on my Switch for a long time. It's called Windbound. I think what I can say about this is it's a perfect example of why I should be watching trailers for games, because I had an idea of what it was based on the screenshots, and it was not that. Enough so to where I ended up stopping. It got to be too much. I thought it was going to be more of like a Breath of the Wild clone, and it turned out to be a roguelike, which is not bad, but when the controls are a little wonky and the sailing is not very satisfying, it led me to stop. This was the first example of, okay, I've got to step away. I may not finish this, and if I don't, whatever, that's fine. So I moved on. Another game that sat on my backlog on the Switch for a while was a game called The Way. Again, I didn't really know much about it, and playing it, I still don't know much about it. It was intriguing, but one thing I'll keep saying is side scrollers are not my favorite thing, and I will admit I had to use a guide by the end because I was struggling a little bit. It got a little confusing for me, and it's probably gonna happen a lot. So after playing The Way, I felt that was a good enough break. I was gonna go back to Windbound, and I guess with this I'm kind of breaking what I hoped to do, which was just move on, but I felt like I was close. I felt like I wanted to beat it, and I did. Clawing and scratching did get to me, especially the end boss fight. So a good use of going back and playing. One game that has piqued my curiosity for a long time was Heavy Rain. We know the memes, Jason, and we know the controls. But beyond that, I didn't know anything other than a kid goes missing. And honestly, I felt like this was pretty good. Pretty good detective story. Utilizes QuickTime events heavily, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I enjoyed it, and there's a lot of rain. And for me, if something has rain, it's automatically better. And when it's heavy rain, it's even better. I did find the twist of the detective being the killer to be quite interesting, and I did like the scattered timelines of the characters all connecting, being intertwined. I found that to be quite interesting, and I did finish it. Another game I say we started playing was Repo. Now, some people may call this quote-unquote friend slop. I don't really subscribe to that phrase because what's bad about playing games with friends? Repo, for the most part, is a fun time. And honestly, I have a hard time with horror games. They're really rough for me. I don't know. They just give me massive anxiety, and this is a game that does get to me. It's goofy, but it is creepy. And for those that don't know, it is an extraction game. You run around different environs collecting valuable items. You extract them, and when you get enough, you can move on. So basically, it's wonky controls and monsters running around chasing after you while you're trying to do this. There's goofy things that happen, and they continue to update the game to this day. So there's always new content, and I hope I have the clip of where I genuinely got the shit scared out of me.
Whoa.
Oh, fuck.
It's an anxiety-inducing game, but it is fun. Many games that sit in my backlog are side-scroller, the less interesting Mario games to me. And one of them was Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. For me, there's a handful of select Mario games that I think are incredible. And there's many that I see that don't really intrigue me that much. The 3D Worlds and the Mario Worlds and all those of the world. But one game that sat in my collection for a while was Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. Popped that one in and had a fun time. I had a good time. I think the more interesting part of it is the Bowser's Fury, the open world aspect of it, the threat of Bowser going crazy on you at any moment and having to fight him while also doing these other objectives. So I found that to be fun. I found that to be a good quality 10 hours of gameplay. Oh, let's talk about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. It sat downloaded on my Xbox for a long time. I didn't buy it. I got it through Game Pass. So I didn't jump into it immediately, and I'd heard stories of what it was and what it was about, and I can confirm that it is what it is and what it's about. This game is all about the sound design, and it's incredible. It's best played with your headphones on or headset or whatever you have. It's best played with something that allows you to feel the sound.
But in darkness they came, through stormy black seas they raided these shores.
There's some jaw-dropping visuals in this, fighting against yourself and your own thoughts and your own beliefs in yourself. And yeah, good stuff. We did add a game to the collection this month, and that game was Xenoblade Chronicles X. They put out a updated Switch version. I think a lot of people think this is the best one. I did start playing it, and I have to say that this is the first game we did not finish. I found it to be very different from the others. There's certain aspects of it that didn't jive with me. Maybe it was the fighting system, maybe it was the setting, I don't know. It didn't really hold my interest the same way the others did. And because of that, I did put it down. And I think part of that was putting it down in the hopes that we would soon get a Switch 2 version of it or an upgrade of some sort. And unfortunately, we have not. So I hope to go back to that one at some point. But I did quit it, and I did quit it with ease. And I haven't thought about it since. So I think we're on the road to recovery. April was not a huge month in terms of progress. The one thing that we did get was the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which only grew my excitement. The pre-orders would begin at the end of the month, and I was gonna get my hands on one no matter what it took. I was gonna be Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way. I was gonna get it. But until that time, years ago, I had purchased the Phoenix Wright trilogy. I had beaten the first one, and I decided, well, why don't we make some progress on the trilogy? Let's do that. So I found myself playing Justice for All. I also found myself relying heavily on a guide because these games are fucking hard. And maybe I'm stupid, maybe they're hard. I had a tough time with it, so I dropped it. I did drop it. I moved on. One thing that was announced though, and was added to the collection, was RuneScape Dragon Wilds. An entirely different sort of game to regular RuneScape, but it was Jagex, and I had to sink my teeth into it. I had to dip the toe in, I should say. And it was an early access game, and it felt like it really had nothing to do with RuneScape as a whole, other than You have skills, you have some quests. It really felt like its own entirely different thing, and I did not get into it. I played a few hours, but I found it to be kind of cumbersome and not all there, which of course is the case. It was an early access game. I don't know that it was my cup of tea. I leveled up my skills a little bit and then I moved on. But a game I did start, a game I had in my backlog, was Control. I love Alan Wake 2, one of my favorite games of all time, which has given a lot of latitude and a lot of grace to Remedy Entertainment. Control was a fun time. I'm not always a big fan of sci-fi aspects and stuff like that, but the abilities and the character and the way it looks, like there's no match to Remedy games. They just have this feel and this look and this tone that is entirely unique. And that was the same with this. I worked my way through it. I got very deep into it, but something else happened this month. Something else was shadow dropped. Something we didn't expect.
And the final hours of my life.
Remastered Oblivion. I moved on to this. I've tried many times to play Oblivion. I always got stuck somewhere. I don't know if that's user error. It has to be. But I always got to a place where I just couldn't continue. But this was the time. This was the chance. And I did. I got very deep into this. Furthest I've ever gotten. It looked amazing. It looked so beautiful, stunning. I mean, just a total cleanup of what the game originally looked like. The problem is you can tell that underneath the hood is still the same game, the same voice acting, the same bugs, the same glitches. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. But it did allow me to enjoy it in a way I hadn't been able to before. And I played a ton of it. I didn't finish it. For whatever reason, I got very deep into it and just stopped playing it. I still want to go back and complete it, and I probably will. But now there's rumors of Fallout 3 being remastered, of New Vegas being remastered in the same sort of way, which I'll take. There were some game-breaking things that happened that I was like, are you kidding me? Like, April 24th came around, and this was the all-important day. Pre-orders were going to begin through Best Buy, Target, and Walmart. I was going to set up my computer, have all the links ready, and I was going to lock in and get one. This was a fucking debacle. Proportions that I've never been involved with. I'm sure it's not new to a lot of people, but it was very frustrating. Best Buy was supposed to open at a certain time, and their pre-orders didn't open for like 45 minutes. Target's website crashed. Walmart's website wasn't working properly. I was getting phone calls from people. Were you able to get one? Were you able to get one? I'm still trying to get one. It was a stressful situation, but I kept trying. I kept clicking. I kept trying. I kept refreshing. I kept doing everything I could. Also trying to wait patiently while things loaded, but also thinking somebody else is going to get it. Somebody else is going to get my spot. But alas, eventually, my brother called and said he was able to lock one in. Fuck! He's going to get one, and I'm not. So I kept trying, and eventually, Walmart worked. One time I clicked, and one time it worked. And of course, you're sitting there with a little bit of unease because some people are saying that theirs are working and then they're saying they're being canceled. So you sit there with this feeling of insecurity and not knowing. So we sat there for a month and we waited. After that, in May, we did finally finish Control, and while it was a good game, I have to say that I did finish it. This is where we reach our first problem, because I was physically unable to beat Control on my own. I played it on the Steam Deck, and there's a certain point near the very end where it becomes unplayable. I could not, no matter what I did, turn down the graphics, everything I did could not and would not allow me to move to the final place. I had to watch a walkthrough of the end, and that is not my fault. So we are going to count this as a completion. So while we're on a roll with Remedy, why don't we start up Quantum Break? Maybe the black sheep of the family? I remember when this game came out and not thinking anything about it. This was before my discovery of Remedy and what they made, and I played it, and it was fine. I thought it was fine. Fun little game. Nothing incredible. The mechanics were cool. The story was interesting enough, but I beat it and I moved on. Now at a certain point, we all get a little lost. We all get a little stuck. And I couldn't figure out what to play next. So put out a poll to see what people think I should play, just to give me an idea so I don't get stuck. And the choice was God of War. Now one thing that I do like about having the Steam Deck is the ability to play a lot of PlayStation former exclusives. PlayStation has probably my least favorite as far as a controller. Like, as you'll see eventually, I do play PlayStation games, but the controller is not my favorite. And if I can avoid playing it, I will. So the fact that a lot of these games I've missed over the years from PlayStation exclusively are available now is very exciting. So I played through God of War, and it was very good. Hack and slash, fighting, discovery, giant creatures, giant monsters, a good time. But I only beat the story, and I didn't do anything beyond that, and that was fine with me. I enjoyed what I did with the story, and I could move on. I could say I beat it. But another game I played right after, same situation as far as PlayStation exclusive made available, was Spider-Man Remastered, and I loved this game. It looks and runs beautifully on the Steam Deck. I could not believe how good it looked and ran. It was incredible. The web slinging was amazing. I could never get over web slinging around. It was so much fun. And unlike with God of War, the thing I did with this was I went around and I tried to collect everything. Collect all the Steam achievements, collect all the items, collect all the collectibles, do all the side stuff, all the DLC missions. I did everything for this game. That's how much I enjoyed it. Eventually, once I did get into the DLC portion of it, I was a little burnt out. I was ready for it to be over, but I had gotten this far, so I needed to beat it and complete everything. But it didn't feel overburdening. It didn't feel like I was going crazy. It just felt like it needed to end. And eventually it did, and I got everything. And I felt accomplished about it. And I was glad I beat it when I did, because at this point, we're only 2 weeks away from the Switch 2 release. So let's try and squeeze in a few shorter or smaller games. So with that little bit of progress, several games completed, it was time. It was time. May was the longest month of my goddamn life for first world problem reasons. Every day I checked Walmart's website to make sure that my pre-order was not canceled, to make sure that I was gonna get my Switch when it released. A lot of people had way more confusing situations where theirs was showing it was gonna come the next day, or theirs were getting canceled, so it was a worry in my head the whole time. And not only that, I was just excited for it. I wanted it in my hands. So on release night, my brother was able to lock one in at Best Buy, so we went there and stood in line and picked it up. I bought a couple things from Best Buy so I could have something. I got the camera and I got Yakuza 0. And honestly, it was not a crazy situation. We got there at a good time, only like maybe a couple hours before they opened. The nice thing about being in Arizona is that they don't do the midnight release. They do like midnight on the East Coast. So at 9 o'clock, we were able to pick up our stuff. I was not able to pick mine up in store. I got mine shipped. That was the one way I was able to get it. So I was curious how long that would take and at what time I would get it. So the next morning on actual release day, I get a notification the driver's out for delivery. 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh yes, this is beautiful. And you know what? It was dropped off very quickly. I got that so early. I had the whole day to play. And with Walmart, they did a kind of a nice, fun thing. They give you a sack with the console. They give you a Coke. They gave you some Pringles, and they thanked you for purchasing through them. I thought that was kind of sweet. You know, a nice little gesture from a fucking giant corporation. As well, I also got the Pro Controller. Oh my god. Maybe one of my favorite controllers ever. So smooth, so juicy, so delightful to touch. So delightful to feel. Oh, It was incredible. One problem arose though, was that for some reason on this perfect day, the internet decided to shit out. So downloads were taking 10 hours. So I couldn't enjoy the new chat feature. I couldn't enjoy downloading games unless I wanted to wait longer than normal. It was very frustrating. Eventually we got that situation taken care of, but things were looking a little grim. Because of the release, I added several games to the collection. I picked up Mario Kart World, No Man's Sky Switch 2 Edition, After Love EP, Lake, Hitman, World of Assassination, Splatoon 3, and again, like I mentioned, Yakuza 0. That first weekend, I just ratted out on Mario Kart, put in 20 hours in that weekend, and I loved the game. It was very fun. The online battle royale mode, if you want to call it that, was super fun, and then I haven't really gone back to it since. But one game I did start was Yakuza 0. Now, I have to say there's several things coming up where I've had the game in my collection already. I got a different version, an upgraded version, so we're not going to count this towards adding a game to the collection. We're just going to keep it the same because it's already there. I added it and it took me a while to finish. So in the meantime, I added and started playing a game called Rematch, which was just kind of a simple soccer game. I found it to be pretty fun, actually. The only problem is that the people I play with are fucking morons that don't know anything about playing soccer. They don't know how to rotate, they don't know how to make runs, they definitely don't know how to pass. It was an incredibly frustrating time that eventually I just had to stop playing. But another game I ended up adding that was already in the collection on PlayStation was Death Stranding. I picked it up on the Steam Deck, and that was the last thing that happened. Pretty slow month considering I got a new system and added a bunch of games. But in July, one of the cool things that they did exclusively for Switch 2 was add GameCube to their online service. And one of the first games that they added was Super Mario Strikers. And I played a lot of that. Played enough to where I unlocked everything in like the single player mode. And I had a good time going back and playing it. It was fun. But eventually in July, I finally beat Yakuza 0. I found that it had I think it had pacing issues. Jesus Christ. I found that it had pacing issues a little bit. It's very long, it's very expansive, there's a lot going on. I played it in Japanese, but it did hinder me from wanting to move on and play something else. So I stuck to my guns and tried to beat it, and finally did. And it was fun. And it was a good introduction to the series, and it did make me want to go on and play the others. So, at the very least, that's good. I started a game called After Love EP, which is it's a small, simple game about a relationship, but one of the main aspects of it and one of the main gameplay tenets of it is playing guitar and playing songs. It was quite fun. It was quite cute. I think a lot of the characters were a little annoying and incredibly judgmental of my character and what I was doing, but by the end, everything tied together. They were better. It was a moment of just wait. Just hold out, you'll see. But I did find a lot of fun with the Guitar Hero-esque aspect of it. And I loved the music in it. It was good. A nice little indie game. I ended up pre-ordering Donkey Kong around this time too. And I also added Yakuza Kiwami. Of course, right after I picked up the Switch 1 version, they announced they were putting out an upgraded Switch 2 version, so that was really cool. But for people that did purchase the first version of it, they did allow you to upgrade for just $10. So that was kind of cool, but it did lead me down a road of trying to understand the timeline and the games of Yakuza, and it's very complicated. There's Yakuza 0, which is the prequel, and then Kiwami 1 and 2, 3, and then beyond that it gets a little more complicated. And then there's upgrades, there's remakes of different games, there's different versions on different systems. It's a very complicated series and a long series. There's spin-offs. It's interesting. We did get the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake, and a lot of things building up to it really sucked the life out of my excitement for it. The way they were structuring things, they were going back to the 2-minute time limit for 4, and one of my favorite things about 4 is the openness of it and the structure of the missions and the ridiculous characters you come upon all along the way, and all that was gone. There's no shitting elephant at the zoo. The zoo became it became a tournament level. It just felt like a totally lifeless remake, and I really liked the first remake version of it. There were some good music replacements though. Of course, with something like this, you're gonna lose the licenses to some song that you were allowed to use before, so their ability to pick songs that match the vibe of it, I thought I did well with that. And I beat the game. I didn't go on beyond that. There were extra missions you could do, like pro missions, and I just did not care enough to go do that.
2 hours later.
Some of the original missions from 3 and 4 showed up as those pro missions though, I did find out, which led me to keep playing. And then I did eventually beat the games 100%, so I lied. I did stick with it. I did beat it. I 100%ed it, and every time I play these games, it makes me want to watch CKY. I started Hitman World of Assassination. There's not a whole lot of story to it. It's just kind of a lot of missions. You go to a place, you take out a few things, you do a couple things, and you're done. There's a light story over the whole thing, but for the most part, it's pretty loose. But once Donkey Kong came out, I stopped playing that and started playing Donkey Kong. And goddamn, what a game. I've never been a huge fan of Donkey Kong. Being able to get into this one was exciting. It had the same sort of structure and the same team that made Mario Odyssey, but just going around, beating everything up, knocking everything out, destroying everything, collecting things. It was very satisfying. The music, oh, just what Nintendo's good at is music. And the music was just delightful, especially the credits song with Pauline. And I thought there was a heartfelt relationship between Pauline and DK that otherwise, why would you think that'd be possible? But it was sweet. There was some after credits gameplay that I did play through that really got under my skin. I started to actually get really pissed off at this beautiful game. I did finish it, the extra stuff. I didn't do all of it, but the credits rolled, so anything after was just extra. And while DK was out, Jagex put out Varlamore Part 3 on RuneScape. And one of the things that was added was the Gemstone Crab, which was an AFK boss that can't really do much to you, but it's just a sponge for attacks that allows you to level up super quickly and AFK. So all the while I was playing Donkey Kong, I was doing that, building up my character, and it was a nice use of multitasking. I did add Little Nightmares 2 to the collection, and I didn't play it right away because I figured it'd be something I could play in the fall time. A spooky game. And that was the end of July. In August, I did end up beating Hitman. Beating because I finished all the missions. There's so much content in this game. There's side missions, there's live content, there's so much to it. It was really fun. It's a really ingenious, fun, and exciting game. It allows for improv and you to do the mission how you want to. There's so many different ways that you can take out the subjects you're looking for. It's very open and pretty kind of quirky too. It's silly. There's silly stuff going on. It really opened my eyes to what the series is, and I could see myself going back and playing it just for fun. And it does make me very excited for 007 First Light because it's the same studio. I did come across some game breaking bugs, like ones that would inhibit me from finishing missions, so that was a little annoying, but it was like once or twice. There was a sale online, so I picked up a couple things. Luigi's Mansion 2, which I've already played, so that will not be an addition. But I did add Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Peak was bought for me by my great friend. I started and beat a game called Lake. It's a simple little delivery game. It seems like the graphics are much better on other systems, because I did play it on the Switch, and it was buggy, it was messy, there's lots of pop-in, there's low frames. There's a lot of good things about it too. The characters, the dialogue choices, the obsession with movies and baseball, which I found was really kind of interesting. Relatable. I did like the music, even if it was a little repetitive, and it was just cozy. Like, you're just driving around this small town delivering packages, and I feel like it did well at making your choices feel consequential and also connect you to the characters in a short amount of time, because I did beat it fairly quickly. A few more things I added to the collection was Fields of Mystria. I added the Life is Strange collection and Is This Seat Taken on Switch. And then I quickly turned around and played through Is This Seat Taken. It's a really simple, short game. It's cute and simple in its execution, and not so simple as you go on. It does become a little hard, but it was really smooth and it was well made, and I liked it. They did put out the Battlefield 6 beta I did play a little bit of it because I am a Battlefield person, and it was, you know, it typically glitchy and buggy like a beta, but you could feel it was going to be good, but it looked and sounded incredible. So I played a little bit of that. I started and finished Mario Bros. Wonder. Again, side scrollers, not my favorite. And these sort of Mario games are not my favorite. I do like the 3D ones, but it's very clever. It was very fun. It was catchy and unique, the structure and the different things you could do, how you beat the levels. It was bright and colorful and entertaining. I like the musical and beat-centric levels and the boss battles. But I do notice when I play these games, the intensity that I hold the button is concerning. I think it's just a natural thing that just happens when you're focused, and it was one I did begin to notice that as I was playing along this game. Made it deep into August and we were still playing Repo, which surprised me. This game got a lot of mileage. More updates were done, more monsters were added. It's crazy. I started and I beat Life is Strange. My initial thoughts of this were that this was kind of a juvenile series, and I was really wrong about that. It dealt with some very mature and depressing and dark themes, and I got really close to the characters to the point I even remembered names, which is stupid, but that's how you know I'm into it. It was a little rough graphically. I heard that the Switch was worse, so I got it on Steam, and it still looked pretty bad, but whatever. That's a side thing compared to the game itself. I thought the time traveling and the manipulation gameplay was pretty intriguing. It allows you for choice, but also to try things differently. I ended up beating it in a day though. I got really into it. I liked the music a lot. Local natives were part of the soundtrack. A lot of references to other things like Twin Peaks and Alan Wake. That same vibe, like that northwest part of the country, rainy and foresty and creepy. Yeah. It got me into the series. It was a good play. And then after that, I decided it's time. Let's play Death Stranding. And after I started playing Death Stranding, I added The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted 4 to Steam. These are not additions to the collection because they're already owned on PlayStation, so just easier ways for me to be able to actually play and complete them later. In September, I finally beat Death Stranding. This always felt like an unapproachable game. There's like a certain magic and beauty to running around the open world, and the camera pans back and music starts playing, showing you the scale of it, showing you the wonder of it. It was very cool.
Enough already.
The rain is obviously bad in this, but when it rained, I always felt good. The terrain looked incredible, despite the constant threat of hostility. For me, there was like an addictive quality to trying to cover the whole map. Something about trying to complete a map or complete an objective where there's multiple steps to it. There's something satisfying about completing each step to cover the whole goal. I mean, the cast is crazy good. There's a bunch of cameos. Online connection is very interesting so that you're able to leave things for people and they're able to leave them for you, but you don't interfere with each other beyond that. That was super helpful. It looks and runs so well for the most part. It got a little hairy near the end, but it was a very moving after credits mission. I did get to a point where I was over it and I thought about quitting, but I'm glad I didn't. I did continue with it and I did beat it, and I have been changed for the better. After that, I started and finished Life is Strange Before the Storm, again, in a single day. They're not super long games, but the fact I was able to play through them in one day says enough about them that I liked them. One of the main aspects of the first one is Chloe losing her dad, and we see it in this one. And knowing what's gonna happen was really upsetting to watch because she's happy, but you know what's gonna happen. It was done super well. So it does a good job of filling in the gaps of the first Life is Strange. It also does well at humanizing a character that I didn't give a shit about, which was Rachel. We hear about her, but we don't know about her. But Before the Storm does a great job of showing you why she was so important. It was a little more straightforward, not a whole lot of the fantasy elements. You don't have a rewind ability, but you have an argue ability. But there was good music. The credit song is a Wolf Alice song from the same album that has Silk on it. And the song at the end of the bonus episode is Ben Howard, which I really like. But the after credit scene, it does solidify the depressing reality of what's going to happen to Rachel. And I didn't really understand how deep this fandom was until I played these. Like, there's a lot of people that love these, and there's a lot of rumors going around about a new game or a show, so it's a very popular thing. I'm glad I played through it. Another thing I was able to do this month was take a trip to San Francisco. My brother is going to school for game design, and he goes to school in San Francisco. Every few months he's got to go there and do in-person class, so I decided I wanted to go with him. It's a city I've always wanted to see. They just opened a new Nintendo store there. I wanted to go there, and it was fucking awesome. There's a subway that takes you straight to the city from the airport, and with any city there's a lot of walking around and everything's there. I woke up the first morning, he had to go to school, so I walked around the city aimlessly, just looking around. I found a nice little coffee shop, got some coffee, got some food, walked around some more, decided I was gonna scoot my way literally over to Amoeba. They had an Amoeba there. I just looked up used movie game stores and it popped up. I jumped on a scooter. 3 miles doesn't feel like a long ways away, but when you're having to go through traffic and you're going up these big hills and all around in a place you're unfamiliar with, it felt like a long time, but it was so fun and so freeing, literally scooting in and out of traffic. But this place was huge, as you can imagine from an Amoeba if you've ever been to one. But after that, came back to the hotel, we ran to the Nintendo store, and it was like being a kid walking in there and seeing everything. It was an overwhelming experience emotionally and just physically. I was concerned that it was going to be super busy because it had just opened like right before the Switch 2 came out, and it was crazy busy then, but it was a good experience. Had good conversations with the employees, and there's so much stuff in there. It's so overwhelming. But I picked up a couple things, some figurines. There's only so much I could get because I had to fly back, and the bag was already getting full from all the other stuff I had collected. And then later on that night, we ended up going to a Giants game at Oracle Park. Just a beautiful ballpark right on the bay. It was a good time. You can see us on TV. A home run ball was hit right by us, and of course I walked away right at the moment that it happened. For just being there a couple days, got a lot of stuff in, got a lot of things done. Incredible time, incredible city, and I would love to go back sometime. When I came back though, I started and I beat Uncharted 4. You can tell with this fourth one that it's noticeably smoother with the movement and the traversing. And it's a beautiful game, wildly beautiful game. The relationships themselves feel way more personal, which makes the story itself feel more personal. I do like the gritty veteran comes back for one last job premise that we always get. Like, it's felt like Indiana Jones. It just seems like it's more personal when you have this person that's been through so much. The action set pieces are just ridiculous. Like, they make no sense, but they're exciting. And I guess Nathan is invincible. There's some audio popping and some frame drops during cutscenes, but nothing ridiculous. And there's some really nice moments, like the moment of quiet while you're driving to New Devon. It's just like a moment of peace throughout this crazy journey. I wrote down wild how they're able to interweave NPCs' actions within the game moments. The final boss fight is really cool though. It's super cinematic, and I love how it's just a one-on-one battle. After I beat that, I added Dead Space Remake, and then I jumped right into Lost Legacy. It came with 4, so I was like, well, let's just do it. Let's do the whole thing. It's more of the same, smooth movement and beautiful graphics. It's just very much a continuation of 4, even down to the quiet moment when you're riding the elephant. I've never been a huge fan of open world task missions, like when they give you a big open world to do several different things in it. I don't know why I've never loved that. I also find it funny that everything in these games is made of paper, like it just breaks down always when you're on it, but the level of thought and creativity that goes into the puzzles, the level structure, and especially the set pieces is really incredible. Like, you would just kind of stand there in awe. Another game I took many screenshots of because of how beautiful it looked. All right, it's time for some spooky games because we're in spooky time. I did start and I did beat Little Nightmares 2. It's a really slimy and nasty game, almost as if Guillermo del Toro and Tim Burton made a game together. The companion stuff works really well considering you're reliant on a CPU. It's not a bad game by any means. I just don't have many thoughts on it because it's simple and it's short and somewhat forgettable to me, but the ending did pull it all together. I did start a replay of Night in the Woods. I absolutely love this game. It's remarkably interesting and mature characters that have a load of depth. The art style is immaculate. It's the perfect fall game, and the music is incredible. It's not really long, but it packs a punch in the short amount of time. And it's an example of a side scroller that I love. It's easygoing, the characters are deep and emotional, and I ended up getting a May Stuffy directly from Ukraine. And if you've never played Night in the Woods, I recommend you play it. I did end up upgrading my gaming setup. I got a new external monitor, I got a keyboard, I got a gaming PC that my brother allowed me to use. So my desk setup is totally different now and better suited to what I need. I got the extra wide screen and it's very cool. It is very neat to play games ultra wide. I love the keyboard that I got. It's GameCube themed and really clicky, and it's allowed me to play games differently and play games better, including starting Dead Space Remake, which is the first game that I've ever legitimately played with mouse and keyboards. RuneScape, sure, but like a game where you're actually controlling all the movements with WASD and a mouse, the first time I've done it. And it was a learning experience. But while I was playing Dead Space, Steam had their autumn sale, so I added some things. The Last of Us Part 1, which is a game I've already played, but I wanted to get it. Life is Strange 2, Riders Republic on Steam, which again is a game I've played already, and then Doom Eternal. So 2 new games added, 2 games added again. And then it became October. These last few months were very busy. I did end up beating Dead Space. I had some issues with the movement from time to time, as one who doesn't normally play PC would, but I did get used to it fairly fast. It's the backing up and moving quickly that's tough. One of the tropes that I'm over, that'll never be over, but that I'm over with, is the go here. Oh no, something bad happened, go here. Oh no, something else, go here. That's the structure of a game always. I don't know why I'm even mentioning it, but I wrote it down and I wanted to bring it up. The game itself didn't really overstay its welcome. It wasn't too long. The final boss left a little something to be desired, but whatever. It was nice and violent and satisfying to kill the creatures. The sound design itself is insane, and it did a good job at creating decent tension. It didn't scare me the way that most games do, which is saying a lot. Something else that happened was Microsoft got greedy and they upgraded their Game Pass prices to double what they already were, up to $30. So I canceled that bitch. I don't really use it anyway. Rare occasions I'll play Game Pass games, but for the most part, the Xbox has become a little obsolete as a gaming platform for me. It's mostly just a glorified streaming system. I have, at this point, a region-free Blu-ray player, so I don't even use it for those anymore. So it was an easy decision to drop it, but it's just frustrating what is going on with Microsoft. There was a sale. I added Death Stranding 2. I totally forgot this even came out this year, but I was glad to finally pick it up because of how much fun I had with 1, and I'd heard so many good things about 2, so I was glad to add it. As well, I added Battlefield 6, and then Jagex announced Gridmaster on old school RuneScape, which is basically you create a fresh account on your account, and all the XP is multiplied. You unlock certain perks which allow you to do certain things. It's basically like OSRS on steroids. Everything is multiplied and done faster, so I spent a lot of time playing that. I used it to get my first 99, which I've never done naturally, but whatever. It was cool to actually to get one. As well, they announced a date for Sailing, the first new skill since they put out old school RuneScape, and that was coming later in the year in November. I did play through and beat Death Stranding 2. It's very much a lot of the same as the first, but it's bigger and it's newer and it's prettier. And Kojima just has a way of taking ridiculous concepts such as a delivery game, something that really wouldn't work in most scenarios, and using it to create truly unforgettable moments and spectacle. He's a guy, he clearly loves movies and probably should be making them. There's a lot of cool cameos throughout it, which is super fun. What a dream it would be to put people into your art that make art that you also like. As long as we have people like Sam Lake and Kojima, games will always feel fresh and new. I added the Walking Dead, the Telltale Definitive series to the collection because that was on sale. I continued playing Gridmaster throughout the month. I didn't really do it efficiently. I think there's a lot of things I could have done better, but I just played it how I wanted to play it. After all the years of hearing opinions, hot takes, think pieces, it was time to start The Last of Us Part 2. And then I added Persona 3 Reload to the collection. Not only that, Luigi's Mansion was added to GameCube Online, and I played that because it's spooky season. They then announced the Animal Crossing Switch 2 edition, which I'm very excited for. I don't even give a shit. I'm gonna buy the full physical release again. I just need more Animal Crossing. And then I ended up beating Luigi's Mansion. It's way shorter than I remember, like a very quick, easy game, super fun. Love the sucking and the ghost collecting. And I don't remember the final boss being as annoying as it was, but I did beat it, and we moved on to November. I beat The Last of Us Part 2. I knew what happened for the most part. I've seen the spoilers. I started watching the show, so it wasn't a surprise when Joel died. But because I knew, I think it created an aura around the beginning of the game. I knew it was coming, and I was waiting for it to happen. So it created this feeling of dread. Ashley Johnson really is incredible as Ellie in ways that Bella could have never replicated. And it's not their fault. It's what it is. It's what Ashley created. One thing I find really impressive is how smart the NPCs are, especially in the open area combat situations. Flanking and moving up when the player is distracted or reloading doesn't give you a chance to breathe, and finding a dead comrade and they yell the specific name is just really immersive and impressive. The deaths are really weighty, they're slow and they're grotesque, and you really feel like you're watching the light leave the eyes of these people. Each death that happens lingers with you, even if it's just a random person you've come across. I wrote down the Christmas scene. Oh, I actually ended up getting a game crash fighting off enemies when I was running away with the scars, but that was the only time I encountered something like that. I love how much rain there is, of course. It's very rainy and dreary, but by the end, I really felt for Abby. I really feel that Ellie became a villain. She became what she was always trying not to be, what she never thought she was. I mean, there's just so many levels of revenge is not always the answer. And once you get it, are you gonna feel satisfied? I mean, the ending was genuinely upsetting. Abby's resistance to fighting, and then Dina's gone, and then Joel and Ellie's last conversations. It was really well done. A perfect example of you need to play something for yourself to really understand it. I started playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, another game that sat in my Switch collection for a while, but I also added a gift for me, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. So once I knew that was coming out, I needed to play Age of Calamity, and then after Age of Imprisonment was added to the collection, Sailing was released on RuneScape, and I played a bit. I played a good amount, and then I moved on because we're getting close to the end of the year, and I really needed to finish off strong. I ended up beating Age of Calamity. The amount of damage done in this game makes the other Zelda games look like a picnic. I mean, just straight up kaiju war zones. It's insanity, but it really puts into perspective how intense the war was. It runs really smooth on Switch 2. I didn't have any issues with frame rates or stuttering. I actually quite enjoyed doing the side missions to unlock items, to unlock more areas and power-ups. I did feel like it became really time-wasty. Time-wasty as shit is what I wrote, especially when you defeat the enemies in Hyrule Field and the Blood Moon revives them. Like, fuck off. It does illustrate how big and intense the war against Ganon was. A very clever integration of Breath of the Wild power-ups and lore that makes it very familiar. It feels like you're playing Breath of the Wild just in a different style. Very cool to see areas from Breath of the Wild before they were destroyed. And then after I finished that, I started Persona 3 Reload. Maybe naively, because these games are long. I figured if I really focused on it, I could get it done. And December rolled around. And I added a game that I'd seen popping up on my Instagram several times called Light Up the Town. And then in December, we had the Game Awards. I'm not really big on who wins. Like, it's fun to watch. The real enjoyment is seeing what games are announced. The Control sequel, hello, that looks amazing. Resident Evil Requiem, they announced that Leon is back, our boy. Like I mentioned before, 007 First Light. And then a little game called Bradley the Badger. looked really fun. It takes aspects of other games and incorporates it into it. It looked fun. A lot of the month was focused on beating Persona 3, and I love this game. It's very much the same structure as 4 and 5, and my favorite part of that structure is the relationship building, not so much the fighting. The game is so long and so focused on being around other people that you come to love and care for the characters in a way that a lot of games can't accomplish, especially in this one where you're all living in the same dorm. Amazing how they're able to comprise a linear story that depends on the user's choices and make it flow smoothly. Again, just like the other games, the music shines. It's incredible. I ended up romancing Yukari Takaba, but it did feel like it started to drag by the end. I was just begging for the final fight, but that last bit allowed me to finish up building the last parts of the relationships and admit and accept our own mortality. Before I bought the game, I did hear tales of it not running that well on Switch 2, and I really couldn't find a single issue with it. But of course, right after I finished it, they announced an update for it to clean it up and fix the FPS and smooth it out. But just like any of these long games, I found the ending super emotionally impactful. I love the Persona series. Happy anniversary. It's the 30th anniversary. I know we're getting 4 soon, but hopefully we get something else. Another thing that they dropped was the Skyrim Switch 2 upgrade, which ended up being a debacle. And I think we need to take a hard look at who Bethesda is and see that maybe they're not the incredible company we thought they were. They have a lot of issues and they have a lot of greed. And the fact that they just threw this Switch 2 upgrade out that couldn't even run. Like, did you even check it before you did it? What are we doing? And charging for it? It sucks. It really sucks. Apparently they fixed it, but it really was another check on the checklist of things that they've done incorrectly over the past several years. I did end up adding the demo for the Final Fantasy VII Remake on Switch 2. And I played through it because it's real quick. It's like maybe an hour or less. I was in awe of how good it looked and how well it ran. It makes me really excited for the full game to come out. It made me pre-order immediately. It looks so good. And then I ended up starting and beating Age of Imprisonment. It's very much the same game as the first one, but I found it to be way less of a hassle and way less frustrating. Another example of a beautifully run game, especially with all the carnage on display at one time. I have an addiction to trying to unlock the full maps in games, and this is no exception. It's the same thing as the first one. It's the same thing as Death Stranding. It does make me curious if they have ideas of how they want to continue the lore and they fill in the gaps, or if they make it up to fit the events of the mainline games. But there's different modes in it. There's like bullet hell missions. It differentiates itself. And the sync attacks are a nice addition, especially Calamos' little hand. I ended up getting Cyberpunk 2077 digitally for $17. I've never seen the DLC for less than that on its own. And I think what happened was it ended up being a glitch they came out with saying afterwards. So getting that was very cool, but I've already beaten it, so we're not adding that. I started and beat Light Up the Town. It's a really simplistic but joyous little decorating game. It's very straightforward until it isn't, until a story begins to develop. The climax is where even a sniff of a story kicks in, but beyond that, it's a stress-free, cozy, quiet Christmas game that I could play from year to year. It's really cute and a bit janky with the movement and it glitches, but easy to pick up and play. I added and I beat a game called Indica. The artwork on Steam just intrigued me. It just looked cool. It's a wholly unique experience. The way it's shot with the fisheye lens, the rig shots, the varied art styles and game modes. There's platforming, puzzle solving, there's third-person 3D, there's like 16-bit mini games, all to tell this thought-provoking story that deals with guilt, faith, good and bad, and self-discovery. I was really impressed with it. And that ended up being the last game I played of 2025. All in all, this experience was super useful and super helpful, and not to mention fun. I found a lot of games that I might not have before, played a lot of things I might not have before. I expanded my horizons, and there's a lot of things that I'm glad I finally got around to. I did add a few more things to the collection. I added Tomb Raider Trilogy to Steam, Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Star Wars Outlaws, Jedi Survivor, Kirby Air Riders, and Clair Obscur. I got those through the winter sale and for Christmas, so we'll have to play those, but these games are for next year to worry about.